everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. So since today is Monday is the day of the week where my bestie comes on the channel with me and we talk about narcissism from both a male and a female perspective. So Joe, welcome back to the channel. And before I kind of interrupted you. Before I hand the reins over to you, I just wanted to say that Joe had the idea to do the video tonight on Satan being the first narcissist. So Joe, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. So we'll see how it turns out. So you guys, part of the idea and concept was to let people into our conversation. Sharon and me talk, God, every day for hours at times. We speak on the solution and recovery. We have a common faith. We have a common enemy. And our faith is a Christian background, but we're very cool people. Like, I'm not some Jesus freak. I have friends that are Buddhists and do different things. Some are into yoga, some are into quantum physics, and I welcome it all. You know, I tolerate everything. But for us, just a disclaimer. So a lot of times we go into the Bible and we read, and I stumbled upon a couple of things last week that kind of brought light to my attention. And I was reading in the Old Testament, a couple of prophets, Ezekiel, I think Isaiah, a major prophet. They were talking about what it was like before mankind was made. Kind of like how negative and positive energy came about. And they tell a story of heaven and God and how there was a battle that took place over this fallen angel, Lucifer, a son of the morning star. He was an archangel. He was like the head honcho, even above Michael. He was God's favorite. He was made beautiful and perfect. And he started to become corrupted with his own pride and his arrogance and his self-entitlement, where he thought, you know, I don't want to worship my creator anymore. I'm not happy where I'm at. I deserve to be where he's at. So he rebelled. And about a third of the angels in heaven, there was a battle between Michael, the archangel, and the angels, and those angels fell down to earth, and they lost their right to be in the presence of the Most High. And as I was reading this in different passages, there were some key concepts and traits that I picked up on, like, wow, man, maybe Satan was like the first psychopath narcissist. Pride, arrogance, self-entitlement, competition. And I like to bring stuff out like that, you guys, because for Sharon and I, it's so important that we make our faith a reality and how we could bring it into our experience. And I mentioned it to Sharon last week, and I never had a chance to ask you, Sharon, like, what do you think about that?
About Satan being the first narcissist?
Yeah, and the traits of what happened, and I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I think absolutely. When you had first said that, I never thought about it before, but yeah, absolutely. Satan and narcissists as we know them, on an everyday basis are very similar. These are people, they're liars. They're rebellious, they're schemers, they try to con people, they search out targets, they try to take as much as they can, they seem to enjoy hurting other people, and we had talked before about when you think about it, there's an actual war in heaven. And Joe, how many times have you and I talked that we feel like going through everything we've gone through with a narcissist? We feel like we've been in a war. I mean, you are emotionally, physically exhausted. This just doesn't happen in a typical situation. So absolutely, I 100% believe that Satan is the first narcissist. He's, we talk about, Joe and I are Christians. So, God would be our Father in heaven. I think for a narcissist, they might not consciously think this, but when it comes down to your faith, it's always your works, not what you say. I could tell you anything. You could tell me anything, but it's what you do. I mean, that's what makes up your personality. That's what makes up who you are. So when it comes down to what narcissists do, they're evil. They don't do anything kind and loving and generous. Satan is their father.
Yeah, and just, in my experience, it, the kind of devastation that these things cause other human beings are far greater than one individual can do. The hatred and the justification, and when I seen that mask drop, was so vile and evil. There was no excuse, no justification, like you just took out that person's whole family. Nothing like that over a cup of coffee, over no, I don't want to go to the movies tonight, and that blackness I've never experienced in my life. It's just, then I started getting into like the 7 deadly sins that it's mentioned throughout the Bible, but never in order. Pride, lust, vanity, and how there's so many traits with this fallen angel that narcissists have. And to be fair too, Sharon, like, I'm an empath, but that doesn't mean I'm no saint. There's a lot of things I got to work on too. With these things, though, it just goes on a different level. Like, it's exponentially, they're in a class of their own, where I believe, there's some negative forces and energies behind them that are ancient, that have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. Like, I was dealing with the power much greater than myself. Divine intervention came in and saved my ass. It was not me. My best thinking got me in that position.
I had a similar experience. I know other people have as well. I've gotten emails from some of you, and you've also mentioned it in the comments, where, what really ended up helping and saving you was divine intervention. That did happen to me. And I always say this, and I will eventually do this, have a video out on some of the things that have happened. I've had literal miracles happen. I've been really blessed. Honestly, I think I would still be with my narcissist if divine intervention hadn't happened. And that's a horrifying thought to me, because I'm such a different person now. I'm on the other side, of the battle, of the war. I've been rebuilding. So now I'm different. So when I think back to where I was, how I was, it's completely different. But that kind of goes to what Joe was saying, how can one person have the power to change you? You're a different person. You're not the same that you were when you came into the relationship. Does that make sense, Joe?
Not just you. How could one person destroy you financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally? I mean, even your children in all areas. That's where I believe that narcissism, like this personality disorder, when you listen to the hundreds of thousands of thrivers, survivors, victims, there's no other disease or mental illness I know out there that has profoundly altered lives in such a way we'll never be the same. God willing, we'll be better versions of ourselves. We'll be healed from the childhood trauma that we had in our life, and the low self-esteem and the low self-worth. But yeah, they all exhibit the same symptoms because they all have a common disorder, like schizophrenia or certain kinds of cancers. That's not what caught me. What caught me was the dropping of the mask. Listen to other survivors and what they went through. It's just, that kind of devastation isn't caused by one thing. There's something much deeper, much more sinister at work.
Absolutely.
At least in my opinion, that's all.
No, I agree with you. I mean, Satan, right? Satan's a deceiver. He's a liar. The truth is a narcissist's mortal enemy. And if you think of it about it like that, narcissists are thieves as well, just like Satan, right? Narcissists steal love, joy, happiness, health, like your children. You name it, a narcissist takes it. And Satan is a murderer, just like a narcissist. Sometimes narcissists do physically kill people, but they take our souls, they murder our souls. And victims, very sadly, sometimes victims actually kill themselves. And I'm not suicidal, but I can really see that. I can understand that. The depths of devastation, the pain, it's indescribable. Only somebody else who has experienced it can understand.
Yeah, exactly. You had to experience to understand it. And, a part of my recovery and this relationship with my true self and learning to honor myself has everything to do with how my relationship is with my God, my creator. And it was funny because we were talking and you were like, you know what, Joe? Like, if he had to get a third of the angels involved, there was a smear campaign going on up there, man. Like, he was really revving up his troops in the Flying Monkeys. And, Sharon, there's so many times in this past where I've just been guilty of selfishness. I was wrapped up in my self-pity and just feeling sorry for myself. And when I think about like God's own creation, the one angel that he made perfect, that he loved, and this thing betrayed him. And then I started thinking about Jesus. This is just my faith and how he was betrayed with a kiss from one of his closest brothers and friends. That my creator knows sorrow. He knows heartbreak. Like, it made my relationship with him more intimate, and thus my recovery, like I'm evolving into something new and different, like a metamorphosis from a cocoon and a caterpillar into a butterfly with wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. You had brought that to my attention. I never thought about that before. Because, I just maybe, I don't know if it's just me or other people too, I tend to think of God as beyond, like above pain, above sorrow. I know he feels things, but I just feel like because he is the creator of everything, he can, like if I feel pain, I'm going to feel it. I have to actively work to get away from it. I always feel like God can just kind of, wave his magic wand. He's not going to feel it anymore. But when you brought that to my attention, yeah, he felt pain too. He knows pain just like us. And the thing is, God's the one that can give us hope that we can get through it. You and I have talked before. Hope is so important when you're in one of these relationships, because when you're with something so evil, something so satanic, you live in hell. You live in hell too. What else? I know hell is the absence of God, but when you're living with a narcissist, your day-to-day existence, if that isn't hell, what is? So you live with him in hell. Only God can give you that hope to get out, to be free. Now that you and I are both out of the relationships, there's such a different feeling, there's that freedom. And I don't know, like even like little pings of joy. I'm still about to go through my divorce, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's such a difference when you're not living in hell. You can actually see again.
And if you think about it, when you go back to scripture and you want to talk about karma and God, we talked briefly, we're piggybacking off of last week about that unpardonable sin, blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, and how I kind of, from my own experience, linked it up with the narcissist. Out of all the sins out there, murder, all kinds of crap, like your creator will forgive you, and truly he has to know your heart to do that. But the one sin that he won't forgive is blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. When I thought about it, I was like, why not? Who is this? I thought it was me when I was a little kid. If you think about a narcissist, they're not sorry for what they did. Like, they have been given time and time again opportunities to change and redeem themselves. How is our God supposed to forgive somebody that doesn't ask to be forgiven? And it was like, click. That's a narcissist. The reason why I believe that sin exists with them is maybe there's 1% that can change. Great. But for the most part, if they don't truly ask for forgiveness and to make amends, amendment, to change, not to say I'm sorry, how could God forgive a sin that you never asked to be forgiven?
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like when your kids are small, and you'll tell them, like I have two kids, a boy and a girl. So I've said to my daughter before, or my son, tell your sister that you're sorry. Tell your brother that you're sorry. And when they're little, they'll mimic that and say it, but they don't mean it. I don't say this to them now when they're teenagers, because it's not real. So it's like what you're saying. It's the exact same thing. God knows. He knows if you're sorry or not. A narcissist, they, really everything comes down to how you act. You said amends. If the way you act is who you are, you could say anything. I could tell you anything. You could tell me anything. You recognize somebody by the things that they do. And if yes, exactly.
Like Jesus that cursed the fig tree that wouldn't produce fruit. You can even have great intentions. I remember when I was in active addiction, it was 8 o'clock in the evening. Okay, I'm going to be home in an hour. I don't want my parents to worry, this and that, blah, blah, blah. 11 o'clock, crap, I'm going to be home in a half. I had all the great intentions in the world to be a good son and to be just a good brother, but they were just intentions. There's a saying like the road to hell is paved by good intentions. Actions define who you are. The word to make amends in Latin means to change. Like when you make an amendment to the Constitution, that means you make a change. It's not shallow words of I'm sorry. I mean, they are so shame-based that they don't even look at that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really bad when you think about the things that they do. I mean, and really, words are they're not even close to being able to do anything to touch the pain that a narcissist inflicts on everybody. It's like you said last week, how you couldn't understand why your ex, why she couldn't just go off and just do her own thing and just leave your boys alone. A narcissist takes everybody with them. They want as many people as possible. And we go back to Satan. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, they bring a third of the angels down with them. Couldn't just say, you know what, I'm a screwed up individual, man. I don't want to hurt nobody no more, and I know I can't change. So I'm just going to go off and drink myself to death or overdose or do what I want. No, they live in hell. That absence of God. Could you imagine being in recovery and not having any kind of faith? Not even a faith of the universe or something bigger than yourself? I would be lost. This is what these people live in every day. And I'll tell you what, even in scripture in the Bible, God hates sin. God was there. The first sin that occurred was in heaven by his own creation. Then he was introduced in Genesis, his first contact with mankind. Look what he did in the story, of Adam and Eve. And some people don't believe there was an actual Adam and Eve, but if you look at the words as pointers to see what had happened and how he deceived them, God hates sin. And it tells you, utter destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, he hates sin to the point where, trust me, and you know this, Sharon, I shared this with you, the karma they get, not only do they live it every day, but the karma they get is horrendous. You wouldn't even think about doing that kind of pain to somebody. Saying sin is it's repulsive to God, and they repay big time.
Yeah, that is, I don't know if it's good or bad that I feel this way, but it does give me some consolation to know that at the end they're going to pay, whether we see it or not. But you cannot, you can't act the way that they act and get away with it. Just like if going back to Satan, since the video is about this, he already is a defeated foe. I mean, he's not going to make it. There's not ever going to be a day. One thing you can be assured of with Satan, one, he's not going to go to God and apologize and try to make some type of amends. That's not going to happen. Satan is who he is. He's never going to change. Just like a narcissist is never going to change. This is who they are. They're always going to be this way. And it's so important for people to recognize that. So many, if you're at the beginning of this process where you feel like maybe I'm with a narcissist, or you're trying to figure out if you are, I can tell you something about a narcissist. The only thing that you can do truly is disengage. You will lose. Yep. Just like Satan, the thing about Satan, he has an advantage. We can't see him. It's not until the damage is already done that we recognize him being here. It's like that with a narcissist. We get into these relationships with narcissists, we don't know who they are. I mean, I could not even fathom that my ex could be so demented. I would never think of it. But they know what they're doing. They always know what they're doing. If they didn't know what they were doing, they wouldn't lie to you. This would just be how they are. They wouldn't love bomb you at the beginning of the relationship, pretending, right, that they're so great.
It's that spell, it's that trauma bond that happens, and we don't even know it happens. And once you're addicted, it takes, at least for me and for thousands of people, divine intervention. And before I go on, Sharon, I just wanted to share a couple of passages from the Bible, since we referenced it, about what the word, what Jesus says about these people and warns us, if you don't mind. One I found in Peter chapter 5, verse 8, and he says, "Be sober and be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." There's a common one, just one of my favorites that reminds me, is in John chapter 8, verses 44. He says, he's talking about the first narcissist, Satan, I believe. "You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar, and the father of lies. He was a murderer from the beginning. You know, it reminds me, because I'm a quick forgetter, because I want to go back sometimes, not anymore, I want to go back to the idealization phase, the love bombing. I go back there, and I used to, not anymore, thank God, but I used to go back to that idealization phase, and that was the 5 minutes of my 20 years that took place is what I would remember. It was it was a nightmare for sure.
Well, I think like for so many of us, nobody's perfect, of course. I've done many, many things wrong, but in general, I want my family to be happy. I want to try to do the right thing. I want to try and be a good person. And when you're like that, you just tend to think other people are like that. But when you were reading about, your adversary, the devil is, like a roaring lion, think about that if that was literal. What we need to accept is that there are bad people out there. There are, whether you believe in literally Satan or not, there are evil people. So imagine if there was really a lion wandering around your neighborhood. Would you just go outside and let your kids go outside and play and act like nothing was there? You would.
Kidding. I'll get you a litter box.
Yeah, exactly. You would have a different attitude. That's the attitude we have to know. You and I and all of us, we've been touched by evil. We know it's real. It's like, unfortunately, sadly, horribly. So as we go forward, we have to be aware of that. We have to be sober. We have to be vigilant, especially if you believe in the afterlife. There's something else. It isn't just what we see. It's what we can't see that really matters. It's what we can't see that has messed us up so severely. So it's so important to move forward with full knowledge and realization. And there's good out there too, but sadly there is evil out there.
Well, we don't have to be afraid, but part of it, I think in Luke, I remember in chapter 10, Jesus was talking in verses 18, and he said unto them, now this was Jesus at the beginning, during this war in heaven that happened long before us. And he said to them, I beheld Satan as lightning falling from heaven. And then I like to personalize it, so I'll personalize it for all of us. Behold, I give unto you empaths power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. We gave them the power, Sharon. It was fear. They had no power whatsoever. When you see these people for what they are behind the mask, I call them spoiled little shit toddlers. It reminds me of going out for Halloween. This kid has a scary mask on. He's nana boo-boo. You take off the mask. He doesn't know it. He still thinks he's got the mask on. He's trying to scare you. And you see who that person is. They have nothing over you. They lost their power. You gave it to them. The greatest con of all time is what they did to us. We needed them. That's what they made us think instead of they needed us. They need us like they need to breathe, like they need air. They're constantly in survival mode.
It's funny you say that, because I've actually heard it said before that the greatest con that Satan ever pulled was convincing people he doesn't exist. So that's really, it's along the same lines, right there. And you're right, this is the thing. About a week or so ago, I was talking to Joe, and I was talking about my ex. I was afraid about something coming up. And he said to me, he had me kind of look at my ex with, it's weird because, you're so used to seeing this person or thinking of this person a certain way. It gets like ingrained in your head. Joe and I have both had these issues with our exes where, like he'll see his ex a lot differently than I will, and vice versa. So he was talking about this to me, and I was able to have, finally, now I've been separated from my ex for a year and a half, so this was not a quick process. I actually saw him finally, for who he is, how other people would see him. I picture in my mind like this person that controls me, has all this power over me. But if you can get to the point truly where you're looking at the reality, it's almost like you have like a little teeny kitten and it's trying to roar like a lion. None of it's real. Everything that we think.
A 6 or 7 year old little boy having a temper tantrum.
Yes.
That's how much power he does.
Exactly, all his power. And it's not just my ex, it's everybody's ex, truly. Somebody who is a narcissist I mean, it really is, bringing this back to the video, it's Satan. It's somebody who has to try to get power, has to trick others to get power. He doesn't
Deceiver,
have
a
it on his
liar.
own. Yes, exactly. And that's how this whole thing started. He had to deceive others. You know, he was right from the beginning. He was like basically love bombing the other angels, right? Talking them into something.
Oh, yeah. And I'm reading this, and the pure envy and jealousy he had of his own creator was just, he wants to take as many of us down as he can out of spite, just to get the finger up in heaven to God saying, yeah, I know I lost, but look at all these suckers that you lost. All the souls that were lost, Jesus, in this battle. And that's why I feel a part of just giving back a little bit, a couple minutes of my time a week, just to say I'm helping other people that do believe they can see this. You know, that it's a huge battle that's going on. And, you know, you suit up and you show up and you stand side by side, no better, no worse than any empath. And we do this together.
Yeah, you're right. You know, you had talked about the earlier in the video how there's a war. There was a war in heaven. There's a war on earth too. It's still there. Good versus evil, and we're.
Let's just boil it down to good versus evil. You know, I stand side by side with my Buddhist empath warrior that has a different meaning and definition of life, that we can agree that we have a common enemy, and that our common solution is something bigger than ourselves. To him, it might be reincarnation. To somebody else, it might be Abba or whatever, Muslim, I don't care. But we stand side by side, no better, no worse.
Yeah, absolutely. There's evil out there. We all know, all of us who have been touched by narcissism, we have had our lives hurt. I don't want to say destroyed because, you know, I'm moving forward. There is just no way my ex is going to ruin one more minute of my life. He has taken 20 years. I know Joe feels the same way. We're moving on together. We have plans for a better life. All of us, we have to take back our power, recognize who they are and who we really are, because good does win in the end.
Yeah, and the spiritual experience, sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it happens slowly, but it will manifest if you work for it. Sometimes you just got to hang the hell on.
Oh God, that's good advice. Absolutely. On the bad days, I had a bad week last week, and Joe knows the difference from one day to the next was unbelievable. I was in the depths of depression one day. The next day something changed and I was in a completely different mood. So always, I told Joe, I'm like, if this happens to me again, remind me, because this is how it is for all of us.
We're quick forgetters.
Yes, exactly. When you feel bad, when you feel like this narcissist has all the power over you, hold on, because it does get better.
If you're in the middle of it, you guys, if somebody's in the middle of it, where they have this urge, they need to contact that narcissist, just get through today. Like, just for today, just keep it in your mind. Just today, I'm not gonna. If you wake up tomorrow morning and you feel the same way, then God bless you. But just for today, you take it one day at a time and just reach out. The help is there if you cry out to the universe.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. So Joe, thank you for coming back. It's always great to have you. Monday's my favorite day to do videos because I get to do it with you. So we don't really have any plans for the video for next week. Oh, I haven't thought of it. Do you have any plans, Joe, or do you want to see if anyone wants to recommend?
I thought it would be cool. We had a listener that asked about like narcissism and addiction, like drug addiction, alcoholism. I know that you've mentioned this in the past, but maybe I could share a little bit of experience or strength, and so could you, Sharon, because you've been on the receiving end of it. As far as, you know, a lot of narcissists use drugs and alcohol to not be able to look at themselves. And not only that, but we get to talk about our addiction to the narcissist and how that plays. It was kind of a cool thing, and I just want to let people know that we do listen to the comments. We do learn from you guys, and if that's something that you guys really want us to talk about, maybe we can do it next week.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. What do you think? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. That would be awesome. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. And Joe, you'll be back next week, right?
God willing, yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Then I'll see you on Wednesday myself, and Joe and I will see you together next Monday. God bless, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Bye-bye.